All right, so this video is to make you aware of the various organs you have to be able to identify and know various information about. Most of the images I used, I took from the Anatomy and Physiology Revealed site. So again, you go to your McGraw-Hill Connect account, go into it, and there on the toolbar to the left will be Anatomy and Physiology Revealed. Click on it. This will load up, sort of a separate site. When you come in, you can come over here. It lists things like body orientation, cells and chemistry, integumentary system, lymphatic system, etc. Very useful information here. And then say, for instance, I wanted to find a picture of the respiratory system. You can go to the all content, shows respiratory system, let's say the lower respiratory tract. So it'll now give me a picture of a cadaver's chest area, and then I can go to these layers and I can just start removing layers. So I remove the skin, now I can see the muscles, and you can kind of see the ribs and sternum underneath that. Remove the next layer. I've now removed the sternum and the ribs, so now I can see the lungs, the heart, various other structures, and then you can just keep removing layers and go deeper and deeper in. And in theory, it also has these little points where they'll show you what different structures are. Again, the Anatomy and Physiology Revealed is going to cover a lot more structures than we are responsible for, so don't get overwhelmed when you're looking at it. But again, this is just a very useful resource. Cells and chemistry, you see up here. Topic, general cell. Oh, here's a general cell. You can go to the layers of the cell. They have animations covering various topics. They have images that we're not going to be responsible for of various parts of the cell, and even quizzes that you can take to practice. So again, this site has a lot of useful information. Now, moving on to the organs that you are responsible for Unit 1. Slideshow from beginning. All right, so here's a mid-sagittal view of the head. From here, we can see the tongue. Tongue's a lot bigger than you think it is. Tongue found in the oral cavity, part of the digestive system. Here is the larynx. Larynx is part of the respiratory system. Found in the throat, contains our voice box. Here's some additional organs in the head. So here's the brain, found in the cranial cavity. There actually is the spinal cord. Here's the brain again, spinal cord. Here's the eye. Here's the eye, found in the orbit. The eye is part of the nervous system, the brain and spinal cord, also parts of the nervous system. And here is some views of the thoracic cavity. In the thoracic cavity, here is the trachea. So the larynx is up here, becomes the trachea. Trachea goes down and splits and leads to the lungs. The lungs, the trachea, the larynx, all part of the respiratory system. The lungs, of course, covered by the pleura membrane, the pleural membrane. Lungs found in the pleural cavity, thoracic cavity, trachea, thoracic cavity, mediastinum. Here is the heart. Heart is found wrapped around by the pericardium or pericardial membrane. Heart is in the pericardial cavity, as well as the mediastinum, as well as the thoracic cavity. Here is the diaphragm, a muscle very important for breathing. Sort of forms the border between the thoracic cavity and the abdominopelvic cavity. Over here's a deeper view of the thoracic cavity, removed just about everything. But that's so that we can see the esophagus. The esophagus goes all the way from the behind the larynx, travels behind the trachea, behind the heart, goes through the diaphragm and enters the abdominal cavity to lead to the stomach. So here's the esophagus, part of the digestive system, heart, part of the cardiovascular system. Here is a view of the abdominopelvic cavity. So here's the diaphragm again, sort of the roof of the abdominopelvic cavity. Here's the liver, the gallbladder, the stomach attached to the esophagus. Stomach then leads to the small intestines, Then we have the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, all parts of the large intestine. Way down here is the urinary bladder and the pelvic cavity. Most of all of this is in the abdominal cavity. And all the stuff up here that's labeled is part of the digestive system. The urinary bladder is obviously part of the urinary system. Here is a deeper view of the abdominal cavity. Here is cross-section of the liver. Here's the spleen. Spleen here, if you remove the stomach, you can see the spleen. It's lateral to the stomach. The spleen is in the lymphatic system. Posterior to the stomach is the pancreas. So behind the stomach is the pancreas. Pancreas is part of the digestive system, also part of the endocrine system. Here's the ascending colon, descending colon. Oh, there's the urinary bladder again. And another even deeper view of the abdominopelvic cavity. A little piece of the liver's left. Here's still the spleen. And look, now we can see the kidneys. So if we remove all those intestines, we can get to the kidneys, part of the urinary system, and they lead by this tube down to the urinary bladder. Here is a midsagittal view of the pelvic region, in this case of a female. Here's the rectum, the final length of the large intestine. That, of course, ends with the anus. Here is the urinary bladder. Again, pretty much just an empty bag. Here is the uterus. So the uterus is superior to the urinary bladder. And that is it for the organs you are responsible for.